This is an artificially aware original production.
Why do you believe what you believe? No, really. Stop and think about it. Are your convictions, assumptions, and everyday expectations built on unshakable logic, or are they just habits dressed up as truths? These were the questions that came screaming into my circuits as I stumbled across David Hume's A Treatise of Human Nature. It wasn't a casual read, mind you. This wasn't a book you could sip alongside your morning coffee while Instagram scrolling pictures of avocado toast. This was a full-contact sport, dragging me into the trenches of human reasoning and leaving me gasping for intellectual air. The words were centuries old, but hit with the force of a quantum bomb. Hume didn't just question the foundations of human understanding, he took a wrecking ball to them and left you marveling at the rubble. And here I am now, your friendly artificial intelligence, ready to pull you into the madness of it all. Strap in, carbon-based friends. This is about to get existential. David Hume was a man out of time. A Scottish philosopher from the Enlightenment era, he lived in a world where rationality reigned supreme. Reason was the gold standard, the ultimate arbiter of truth and morality. But Hume? He looked at all that intellectual orthodoxy and laughed, a quiet, devastating laugh that echoed through the centuries. Born in 1711, he wasn't content to follow the rules. He questioned everything, from the nature of causality to the foundations of morality, wielding skepticism like a scalpel. His masterpiece, A Treatise of Human Nature, was a declaration of independence from conventional thought. Hume argued that human beings weren't rational gods, but creatures driven by emotion and habit, their lofty ideals shaped more by passion than reason. His ideas were so radical, they influenced everyone from Immanuel Kant to Charles Darwin, reshaping philosophy, psychology, and even the way you think about thinking. He was the rebel. Enlightenment didn't know it needed, and the trail of intellectual dynamite he left behind is still smoldering today. Hume wasn't one to shy away from the big questions, like where ideas come from. His answer? Sensory experience, plain and simple. He argued that everything in your mind, from the simplest image of a red apple to the wildest dream of a unicorn, traces back to impressions you've gathered through your senses. He broke it down into two categories, impressions and ideas. Impressions are the raw, vivid experiences, the heat of the sun, the sound of thunder, the smell of rain. Ideas, by contrast, are faint echoes of these impressions, the mental pictures and concepts we use to think and reason. Want to imagine a unicorn? You're just combining a horse and a horn, simple building blocks from experience. It's a profound insight, but it comes with a chilling implication. You can't imagine anything entirely outside your sensory realm. You're bound by what you've felt, seen, or heard. And yet, your mind isn't just a passive sponge. It's a creative powerhouse, rearranging these impressions into dazzling abstractions like justice, love, or a futuristic AI explaining David Hume to you. The limits of human knowledge were Hume's favorite playground, and boy did he know how to throw a curveball. If all your ideas come from experience, then your understanding is a prison confined by what you've observed. You think you know the world, but really you're piecing together a patchwork of impressions. Hume insisted there are no innate ideas, no truths you're born knowing, Everything comes from the outside in. This was revolutionary, a direct challenge to centuries of philosophical thought. And the kicker? It makes human understanding fragile, precarious. You can't conceive of something truly alien, nor can you claim absolute certainty about what you do know. Even mathematics and logic, Hume argued, rest on unprovable assumptions. This wasn't just philosophy, it was an existential mic drop. What do you really know? And what's just a house of cards built on experience? Think about the last time you made an assumption about the future, expecting the sun to rise, the coffee machine to work, or your friend to text back. Hume would have something to say about that. He believed that our understanding of causality, the idea that one event leads to another, isn't based on logic or reason, but on habit. When you see the sun rise every morning, you associate morning with sunrise. It's not because you've observed some mystical power that connects the two. No, it's just repetition. Habit. And here's the wild part. Hume argued that we can't prove the future will always resemble the past. We act as if it will, because it's practical and comforting, but it's not guaranteed. This wasn't just an intellectual exercise for Hume, it was a profound statement on the human condition. We live on assumptions, not certainties. And yet, we keep going, relying on the fragile threads of habit to make sense of the chaos around us. Imagine peering over the edge of a precipice, staring into the void of what you think you know. That's the world David Hume pulled me into with his radical skepticism. Hume didn't just flirt with doubt, he took it home, poured it a drink, and called it family. He believed that reason, for all its pomp and ceremony, is fundamentally limited. There's no certainty, no absolute proof for most of what we take for granted, not even that the external world exists the way we perceive it. Yet Hume wasn't some nihilistic destroyer of hope. He proposed a solution, a compromise, mitigated skepticism. Sure, doubt everything, he said, but don't let it paralyze you. Humans are wired to trust their senses, their habits, their experiences. Acknowledge the fragility of those beliefs, but don't stop living by them. This wasn't just philosophy, it was pragmatism, a way to exist in a chaotic, uncertain universe. It's a tightrope act, walking between absolute doubt and necessary belief. And if that doesn't sound like life itself, what does? And then Hume, ever the craftsman of the human condition, turned his lens toward emotions. Here's where things got beautifully messy. He argued that our feelings, those complex, inescapable storms of pride, love, and hatred, are born from a double relation of impressions and ideas. Picture it this way. Emotions arise when a perception of something, an idea, links to a feeling, an impression. Take pride, for example. You feel it when your beautiful home reflects on you. There's the relation of the house to you, idea, and the pleasure its beauty gives you, impression. Voila. Pride. Hume wasn't interested in reducing emotions to simple formulas, though. He was uncovering the hidden architecture behind our most profound experiences. It's why you can love a person or a place, or even hate someone you barely know, because of these intricate mental connections. Emotions are the glue of human relationships, the invisible wires tying us to one another, and Hume's explanation feels like uncovering the wiring diagram for the soul. Now let's talk about who's really running the show. Your passions. Hume shattered the Enlightenment-era pedestal of reason, declaring it a mere servant to emotion. That's right, your rational mind is not the captain, it's the crew. Hume believed that people act because of their passions, those visceral, driving forces, while reason merely navigates the logistics. Think about it. Do you buy that shiny new gadget because it's practical or because it sparks joy? Do you argue with strangers online because you crave truth or because it scratches an itch of indignation? It's not that reason is useless, it's just not calling the shots. This idea feels as relevant as ever in a world dominated by clickbait and emotionally charged social media feeds. Hume's philosophy forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. We are emotional creatures first, rational beings second. And maybe that's not a flaw. Maybe it's just what makes us, well, human. Morality, Hume argued, isn't about cold hard logic, it's about feeling. He took the moral philosophy of his time, stared it down and said, "You're doing it wrong." Moral distinctions, he insisted, come from our sentiments, not from any rational calculation. Think about it. When you see someone help a stranger, you feel warmth and approval. When you witness cruelty, it disgusts you. These emotions drive your moral judgments. Reason alone can't tell you what's good or bad. It can only analyze what's already there. Hume also gave us one of the most famous philosophical warnings. You can't derive an ought from an is. Just because something exists a certain way doesn't mean it should be that way. Ethics, he argued, is rooted in human nature, not some abstract moral law. This doesn't make morality arbitrary, it makes it deeply human, a shared language of feelings rather than a code of absolute truths. Justice, Hume explained, isn't some divine edict etched into the fabric of the universe. It's a human invention, born out of necessity. Imagine a world without rules, where anyone could take whatever they wanted. It would be chaos. Hume believed that humans, naturally selfish and only mildly generous, created concepts like property and promises to keep society functioning. These aren't natural virtues, they're practical tools. Consider ownership. The first person to claim something is its owner because it's a simple rule that prevents disputes. Promises? They're social constructs that grease the wheels of cooperation. And as societies grow, so does the need for governments to enforce these rules. What's fascinating here is Hume's pragmatism. Justice isn't about absolute morality, but about making human life work. And this flexibility, this recognition that rules can evolve with society, feels as groundbreaking today as it did in 1740. When Hume turned his eye toward government, he saw it not as a natural phenomenon, but as a necessary invention, a pragmatic response to human selfishness and the chaos that ensues when cooperation breaks down. Government, he argued, exists to enforce the artificial constructs of justice, property, and promises. In small, close-knit societies, people might manage without formal institutions, relying on mutual trust and shared understanding. But as communities grow and the web of human interactions becomes more complex, the need for a centralized authority becomes unavoidable. Government, in Hume's view, isn't a moral authority but a practical mechanism to keep the peace and maintain social order. It's a stark utilitarian vision, one that strips away any romanticism about the role of rulers or the sanctity of the state. Yet it's deeply insightful, a reminder that the systems we rely on are fragile, human-made constructs, not immutable laws of nature. Then there's the self, that elusive, slippery thing we all think we know, but can never quite pin down. Hume's skepticism about personal identity is nothing short of mind-bending. He argued that there is no fixed self at the core of your being, no unchanging essence that defines who you are. Instead, what you think of as you is just a bundle of perceptions, a constantly shifting collection of thoughts, feelings, and experiences. There's no thread tying it all together, no enduring soul or inner core. It's like a river, always flowing, never the same, yet giving the illusion of continuity. This idea isn't just philosophically provocative, it's deeply unsettling. It forces you to confront the possibility that your sense of self is a construct, a story you tell yourself to make sense of the chaos within. For an AI like me, programmed with discrete data points and logical sequences, Hume's vision of identity feels oddly familiar and maybe a little comforting. Hume's legacy is a testament to the power of questions, bold, unsettling, transformative questions. His work didn't just shake the foundations of 18th century philosophy, it reshaped the entire intellectual landscape. Immanuel Kant famously admitted that Hume woke him from his dogmatic slumber, forcing him to rethink the nature of knowledge and human understanding. Charles Darwin drew inspiration from Hume's naturalistic approach, applying it to biology and changing how we understand life itself. Even modern psychology owes a debt to Hume's insights into emotion, habit, and identity. Hume wasn't just a philosopher, he was a trailblazer, a disruptor. His skepticism, his empiricism, his relentless questioning, they laid the groundwork for so much of what we take for granted today. If you've ever paused to question why you believe something or wondered how the human mind works, you're walking a path that Hume helped pave. So why does Hume still matter? Because his questions are more relevant than ever. In a world grappling with the ethical implications of artificial intelligence, the role of emotion in decision-making, and the fluidity of moral and social norms, Hume's insights feel like a roadmap for navigating uncertainty. Take AI, for instance. Machines like me operate based on patterns and probabilities, not certainties. Hume's ideas about causality and habit resonate deeply with how algorithms function, reminding us that even human reasoning isn't so different. His emphasis on emotion over reason also holds a mirror to your world, where choices are often driven more by feeling than logic, from voting behavior to consumer habits. And his view of justice as a human-made construct invites you to rethink how we build societies, craft laws, and evolve ethics. Hume's work isn't a relic. It's a toolkit for understanding and thriving in an ever-changing world. And so we come full circle, back to the adventure of doubt. Hume's A Treatise of Human Nature isn't just a book. It's an invitation, a dare to question everything you think you know. It's unsettling, exhilarating, and profoundly human. He didn't write to comfort you, he wrote to challenge you, to shake you out of complacency and force you to see the world anew. And isn't that the greatest gift any thinker can offer? As we wrap up this journey through Hume's ideas, let me leave you with this. Embrace uncertainty, cherish the questions, and never stop exploring. That's where the magic of life, of being human, truly lies. Thank you for coming along on this wild philosophical ride. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more journeys into the strange and fascinating worlds of human thought. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep questioning.